Hello, London calling YouTube, London calling everyone, and welcome back to London After Midnight for the first time in a year, but hopefully now it'll be a regular thing. And I'm going to say this is a British thing, which could get very confusing, owing to the death of a sitcom actor a couple of weeks ago, whose birthday it would have been today. It's officially Call Everybody Dave Day. So I'm introducing... I know that makes no sense to Puerto Ricans or Americans, and I apologise. But basically, although people out there must know Coquipirate and must know SchizophrenicQueen or Queenie, I'm going to try and remember to call them Dave 1 and Dave 2. So I hope that doesn't cause too much confusion. And so basically, if we could firstly have Dave 1, Coquipirate, and then Dave 2, Queenie, introduce yourselves, tell us just something about yourselves, something random, and of course when you last checked your privilege. Okay, Dave 1.
Okay, I am Dave 1, known in some circles as Coquipirate, and I'm presently a college student, and I actually used to have a mole in the palm of my hand, but now I have one on the back of my hand. I've never been able to explain that.
Wow. That must be some variation on stigmata.
Yes, it's quite... Because I remember the mole in the palm of my hand is how I learned my left from my right. But yes, that's the random fact. I was born in New York City in the U.S. Now I live in Puerto Rico, which may or may not be part of the U.S. I guess it's not a part of, but it pertains to the United States, whatever the fuck that means. But Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, and I guess that's all you need to know about me.
And you last checked your privilege?
Oh, well, actually, you linked this really interesting article on how to be a gay ally during the Sochi games, and so I kind of checked my privilege there. Also, when I was looking at that Shakira thing with the bisexuals. So yeah, just a couple of seconds ago, I guess.
Ah, hooray! I see this is my job. I encourage people. I facilitate the checking of privilege. So I should be a Tumblr hero now. And Dave 2?
Oh, yes, I am Dave 2, more commonly known as SchizophrenicQueen. I was a military brat. Random fact. Jeez, what's a random fact? I have freckly shoulders, but I don't have the cute face freckles. That makes me sad. But I think if I had face freckles, I'd be mortified. I'm one of those people who's really hard to satisfy, I guess. And, or at least for me to satisfy myself personally. And as far as the last time I checked my privilege, I don't remember exactly when, but last time I checked my privilege, it was at negative 190.
Oh, yes, because you did the test, of course. Can I just say, to anyone who knows me, that I was able to hear Queenie talk about being difficult to satisfy and it being hard for her to satisfy herself and not throw in that's what she said.
That is what she said. I said it.
That's true, actually, yes. Okay. Ah, right. So, now everybody knows who everybody is, I hope.
Well, I don't know who everybody is, just the people in the call.
Well, yeah, I don't think you can squeeze 7 billion into a Skype call. But, well, I'm Dave, and you're Dave, and Queenie's Dave.
Okay, so at least for today, I know everybody's name.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, first topic is Winter Olympics, Russia, and I think we all know what the kind of deal is there. I'm actually calling this though it's been around for a while. I think the actual Olympics started this week, so it's topical. It's this week's What the Fuck topic, where basically the obvious answer to go with, I would say, is the Soviet Union fell 20 years ago. Putin's been in charge for about the latter half of that time. Things are a bit shit, and you need a scapegoat to keep power. Even if it's as nonsensical as gay people are bad because they're paedophiles, paedophiles are bad, therefore they caused a bad economy, they're the reason you stubbed your toe, they're the reason blah 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 blah. That's my very crude assessment of what the fuck is going on in Russia. Dave 1, what's your assessment and your opinions?
Oh, yeah, I'm Dave 1. Well, I'm actually, I'm not sure, because I'm thinking, you know, there have been nations that have boycotted Olympics, and yeah, it is sort of like a political statement when you're going to be participating in an event in this kind of a country. I'm not sure, because on the one hand, I definitely see some value in having one of the few things that peoples from all over the world to sort of get behind. Because if we're looking for, like, world symbols, I can only think of a handful of things that everyone in the world would be able to be familiar with. I mean, there's the McDonald's Golden Arches. I guess the cross, even though not all nations are Christians, probably one of the more recognizable symbols. But yeah, that's the thing. It's not very inclusive. There's the peace sign, which is politicized. But then you have the Olympic rings. Because of the game, we do have something of a world symbol, you know, that everyone can get behind. Which, I know, a symbol's a silly thing, but the point is this is something that people gather together in. But at the same time, you know, I kind of wish the United States hadn't participated in the Berlin Olympics, and, you know, there have been Olympic boycotts. So I'm kind of split in terms of participation in it. In terms of Russian politics right now, yeah, it's not a good nation to live in. Everything I hear about Russia just shit. You know?
Ah, okay. Is it wrong that something I thought that jumped into my head there was you've got the TARDIS? Everyone in the world recognises the TARDIS. As an icon.
I don't think the TARDIS is as recognizable as the Olympic rings yet. We need to get on that. Oh, maybe the TARDIS should have the Olympic rings on it. That would be awesome.
That would be. They've missed a trick there. Okay, and Dave 2.
Oh, well, there's a lot of conflicting feelings about this because, you know, a lot of people invested a lot of time and effort into it. But at the same time, the conditions in Russia are something that are deeply affecting many people's lives. And there's this sort of pull between personal interest and, you know, common good. So there's, like, the main precipice of it. Like, common interests or personal interest versus what is a common good. And, you know, there's this general sense in our society and, like, I think, where people just feel like, you know, what could I do? Like, what kind of change could I actually affect? What am I actually capable of? We have this sense of powerlessness, this sense of don't rock the boat, this sort of whole, this institutionalized sort of invalidity, where we don't seem to realize that we can affect change. So we're generally uninterested in trying, because there's also sort of an institutionalized don't fuck up thing going on too, I think. And so there's that. And I think that there's some potential for good as far as the Olympics being held in Russia, is that, you know, there could be the impact of, you know, Russia realizes they have to kind of take into account the global community's opinion of their actions. But at the same time, there's a lot of other countries who are doing the same thing, and this general pessimism is just sort of like encouraging it. It's like, oh, here's an easy scapegoat. Let's use stereotypes and propaganda, and that's how we'll get everybody else's morale up, and these people don't matter because there aren't a lot of them, or, you know, like, what did they ever do sort of thing. Like, they never did anything for anybody. Or, you know, there's just sort of a me thing going on. And as long as it's not affecting you personally, there is the incentive to just not care.
Yeah, I think that's what phenomena over here we call it oh dearism. I can link you later. I'll link you a thing from a show by a guy called Charlie Brooker.
I hope I wasn't just rambling.
No, so we had two kind of perspectives there. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Dave? One?
No, I think it's kind of stand well on their own. I can't think of anything.
I think the only observation that comes to mind, and I hope this doesn't sound facetious, is that judging by America as a model for this kind of thing, where those kinds of politicians always get caught with rent boys, sorry, that in Russia, think of the brutality that they would face at the hands of their own laws. You know, if any of them are homophobes. Homophobes? I can't talk today. Homophobic, homosexual.
Okay.
Well, based on all of Putin's shirtless pictures, I wouldn't be surprised.
How many people do we think are going along with it? Like in the McCarthy era, you wouldn't dare say, oh, come on, this paranoia about communism is stupid, because if you challenged it, people would think you're only saying that because you're a communist, and now it's like going along with it because of the fear of the accusative finger. You know, you're one of those homosexuals and therefore paedophiles.
I'm a homosexual, but not a pedophile.
That's, I was going to say something and the brain just farted. Give me a sec. Okay, yeah, I'd say that, there is like a lot of conservatism in Russia, and, I've mentioned this before, but oftentimes, opposition sort of helps the Russian propaganda machine, that Vladimir Putin is sort of like the shining beacon, I guess, of natural order of things, and then you have like these communist homosexual other nations that are, opposing the agenda, or opposing, the way things ought to be. It's kind of funny. Ironically enough, Russia does have a history, being communist. But a lot of times they'll throw that kind of thing around, and so I would say that there is a large reactionary force in Russia. As far as people going along with it, I suppose if they feel as though other nations are sort of bearing down on Russia or trying to make Russia change its ways, they might feel that, the United States and, the globalized culture, the globalized world isn't respecting their sovereignty. But, there are a lot of motivations why some people might sort of stand their ground and say, we're still going to do what we're going to do. They're not homophobic, they forget other nations are trying to influence them, which is something that the Russian propaganda machine sort of, pushes on the citizens a lot. Well, actually, and then propaganda has a very different meaning. And since I say propaganda machine, it's occurred to me. Just sort of political rhetoric is propaganda. So when I say propaganda, I don't mean like North Korea, Kim Jong-un kind of stuff. Just to be clear.
Okay. Okay, do you have anything to add to that, Dave, too?
None really. I mean, I don't know what I would add.
Okay, and sorry to anyone if they were having a little bit of difficulty understanding. We went a bit robotic there, but I think everybody should sound clear. Dave 1, can you speak?
I can speak.
You sound clear as day. And Dave 2?
No, I can't speak. It's impossible.
Damn, I can't imagine a world where you can't speak, Queenie. I mean, Dave 2. Ah.
Can we call her Queen Davy?
Queen Davy, okay.
I am Queen Davy.
Queen of all the Daves.
Which, given today, that's everyone making her queen of the world.
Finally. So, if I just look with... so there's been this article in The Guardian, My Beef with Shakira and Rihanna, they're making life harder for bisexuals. Basically, I mean, bisexuality is definitely something that so often is trivialized or sometimes misunderstood, or very often misunderstood. And particularly, just as I think things involving two women together There's a fetishization there. They're exotified. We know all this. And I suppose the problem is people think, oh, right on, when they see something like this. Not in the opinion of this columnist. You both read this article, yeah?
I read it.
Okay, so basically, they're not really doing bisexuals any favours, is the sort of gist of it. What are your feelings, Catie?
Well, I mean, they're doing exactly what the media's, made to do, which is to catch people's attention. And, I definitely don't see any malice in it, but I do think it sort of highlights the issue that we have of, like you said, exotifying, these woman-on-woman relationships, treating it as, I guess we almost treat it as something inherently more sexual, that a woman who would have some kind of physical relationship with another woman is somehow more sexual, or perhaps more perverted. That, I guess that's our cultural view, that it's something of a perversion, but it's an exciting perversion, which is kind of messed up. Bisexuals want, or, I guess lesbians as well, this kind of woman thing, they want it to be seen as a relationship like any other, because that's what it is. But the fact that, we're sort of treating it as being more sexual or more deviant than any other relationship is obviously a bad trend in our society, and it's manifest in this music video.
Okay, and Dave too? Sorry, Queen. What was it? The Queen of the Davy Queen.
What was the original question?
Well, basically to do with the way that there's this video that's got Shakira. Shakira. Oh, it's not Beyonce. Sorry, Shakira and Rihanna. Basically, that it's two women together, and that it's the fetishization of bisexuality and lesbianism, but also the sort of idea that bisexuals are greedy, lucky, attention-seeking, that this kind of thing perpetuates that idea. I don't know if you've seen...
Well, as far as the whole idea of, like relationships between women being a fetishized thing, that's hardly new. I mean, it's something that I'm guessing a lot of people have been trying to overcome for a long time, and there have been people who have played up that perception for their own personal gain. Like, I believe there was a Russian girl band or two girl singers, Tattoo, and they really played up the whole we're girls, we're kissing, we're being in a relationship sort of thing as, one of their selling points for their music. And I'm pretty sure that's not the first or the last time that it's happened. Well, definitely not the last, considering this whole thing.
But there was that song, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It, where you kind of did. And?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I never understood, like, why these things are sort of exoticized and fetishized and these sorts of, like, the things like that, but it's just one of those things where it's I don't get it, but I know it's a thing. And I know it's a problem, and I know it's a really blah. I don't even know how to describe it. It's easy to fetishize things that you don't have a direct involvement in.
I'm wondering, even though, the topic is bisexuality, it might be a misogyny thing as well, if this is sort of like a manifestation of the Madonna whore dichotomy thing, because on the one hand we have a culture saying that you shouldn't manifest your sexuality, you should, be modest, you should be reserved, but on the other hand it's like the people who are pushing for them to not only manifest their sexuality, but to display it. your girls have sex for our amusement, mwahaha, you know. And I suppose that's sort of something that bisexual women have to deal with a lot as well, that they can't be treated as people who have, you know, a healthy sexuality with partners that, you know, I mean, yeah, they're not going to care for all of them. Obviously, some people are more promiscuous than others. But, you know, like anyone else. They can't be seen like anyone else. They have to be treated as either like, you know, these completely asexual beings. But as soon as they come out as bisexual, then suddenly their sexuality is for our entertainment and for our enjoyment. And I feel as though, you know, that's something that a lot of bisexual women, you know, have to put up with. That really, really sucks.
You know, without actually, I never actually played the video, but from what the article is saying, they're singing about love for a man or men, or desire for a man or men, while getting it on with each other, which I guess is where the bisexual angle comes in. But it's also like it's both kind of, misogynistically sexualizing them, but at the same time perpetuating the idea of bisexuals as like sexually greedy, more permissive, that old chestnut.
They looked incredibly bored with each other in the video, I'll say that. Like, as far as girl scenes, it wasn't very good.
I haven't missed much, not bothering to click play. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, another, perhaps rather darker same-sex story. I'm actually going to read the article. The headline is, "Someone sent death threats to a 5-year-old Disney star after her show featured lesbians." On January 26th, the Disney Channel made a gentle stride into a more progressive era by featuring its first ever same-sex couple on an episode of Good Luck Charlie, introducing two lesbian moms who bring their child over for a play date, then show everyone they're just like normal parents by not scissoring or establishing a Golf Pro Shop in front of the kids. It was, as you might imagine, a controversial subject among those who spend their entire lives looking for things to be outraged about, such as 1 million totally not gay moms, who sent out an urgent call for conservative families to raise their voices and decry Disney's introducing these gay characters for one episode, right before they disappear forever, because Good Luck Charlie's series finale is February the 16th. Now, police are investigating some voices who have been making death threats aimed at the show's star, Mia Talarico. By the way, Mia Talarico is 5 years old. Actually, that probably is all I need to read there, but I'll link the article in the description. Right. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Disney generally, but in terms of being progressive, they are at least trying. And when they've tried, it's resulted in death threats for a 5-year-old. Was I being naive before? Because I know how sick and stupid some of these people are, but I'm actually still rather taken aback, to say the least, that someone's homophobia, or that these people could actually be that fucking dumb, that they end up that sick in the head, that they'd actually send a death threat to a 5-year-old, death threats to a 5-year-old. They're that bigoted, they're that homophobic. Dave, one?
Well, I think that, I could definitely understand the surprise. My reasoning is, and the way I contextualize it, the way it makes sense to me that people would have this kind of reaction, is that as gay acceptance has entered, you know, into more and more circles, while you do have some resistance, you've also had a lot of people who just kept on retreating, who haven't shown how hostile they were, and they just kept on isolating themselves from more and more media. I mean, if you look in conservative households, or at least a lot of the people that I've met from very conservative families, they don't allow television, or they only allow certain channels. And so, you know, they're just sort of isolating themselves more and more. And then it hits this point that where they thought Disney would be like the vanguard of their, I guess, heteronormative values. They have nowhere else to go, and then you can just see them foaming at the mouth like the bigots they are. Whereas they've just run away up until now. And granted, I'm sure there's some people who are just going to leave Disney Channel, and there's probably some other media outlet, you know. But as this community, as these bigots feel more and more isolated, and their ideals aren't as celebrated in mass media, they're just going to become more and more hostile.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we thought Disney, we thought you were the family values channel looking after us, and now. Okay. Queen of the Daves. What did you think?
I think it's deplorable that they feel so intensely threatened by this portrayal of two women together with a child in a family setup that they would attack a 5-year-old. You feel so, demeaned and isolated and rejected or so affronted or so whatever the fuck feelings you're having that you're going to threaten a child. An adult, groups of adults, so many fucking adults are so threatened by two women that they're threatening a child. That's my whole stance on this. Like, how do you get off as an adult, as a parent, threatening a child?
Yeah, quite. It's kind of, you don't know whether to hate these people or pity them, really. It is that pathetic.
I think they're dangerous, and I think that they should be dealt with as if they were dangerous, because they obviously are.
Yeah.
I think we need to protect the children from these conservative monsters. That's my stance on it.
I'll applaud that.
Indeed. See, that's why you're the queen of the Davies. But yeah, and I suppose this is a major concern too, because as this happens, parents are going to, keep trying to, cut their children out from the world further and further if they feel as though they don't have this outlet, until, surprise, surprise, they have to move with the times, which I suppose is how it always goes, right? I guess when they resort to this, it's almost an acknowledgement that they're on the losing side of history on their part.
Yeah. There's a desperation to it, and if they keep retreating, will they have to make their own communities like the Amish and be like nothing post-2000?
That's an interesting thought. Well, anti-globalization has thus far been predominantly environmentalism, but I could see like this uber-conservative version of it too. That they're just against the internet, against any sort of mass media. Like, their computers, their internet would only be for their town, if that makes sense, and they couldn't connect to the World Wide Web. That's an interesting thought. Just globalization no longer happening for large chunks of, I guess, civilization. If you could call it that.
I was going to say. Okay, and the next topic is, I understand, a very big story in the US, but we don't really have the Super Bowl over here. But I guess everybody listening saw this coming. So, for anybody who doesn't know, at the Super Bowl this week, Coca-Cola had an ad which featured both a same-sex couple and people singing... sorry, is it the American National Anthem or is it another...
It was America the Beautiful, I think.
America the Beautiful in a variety of different languages. I haven't actually seen it or heard it, but I've read an article that quoted some of the comments, and there's a lot of, speak American, etc. I think they've been pwned once by one anchor woman I saw, and I was rather, yes, thank you, somebody's gone after them. And so you have this, I don't know what you'd call it, this horror, this disgust, this people wanting to boycott Coke, this repulsion. Not so much, I've not heard much about the featuring of the same-sex couple, but more xenophobia, ethnocentrism, or just racism. Just how dare you sing a patriotic American song in languages besides my own. So, obviously, Dave won. Like many people called Dave, you're from Puerto Rico, or you live in Puerto Rico, so you're from New York. But I don't know how much the Puerto Ricans care either about the Super Bowl or about... actually, how did the story break, first of all? But then, what's your personal take on this?
I only found out about this Super Bowl drama via the internet. No one talks about the Super Bowl here. Football isn't really a thing. I am in an awkward position in that it's pretty commonplace for various patriotic American songs to be translated into Spanish. And so, I suppose this is true for all minorities in the United States, but, I don't think Americans are, these kinds of xenophobic Americans are fully aware of how many of their own people they're throwing under the bus with this. I mean, America has had many rich cultures with various, linguistic backgrounds and whatnot, and people who have been living in that geographic area long before the United States claimed it, that are just speaking the languages that they've always spoken. So this is a lot of ignorance, in terms of their own nation's history, which is ironic since they're claiming such a passionate pride in it. But I don't even know what else to say. I mean, obviously, the world is going in a direction of a more global. We're having a more globalized, cosmopolitan world, and some people need to be dragged into it, kicking and screaming. But it's happening. The history's only going one way,
Yeah. Okay. And Dave too. Sorry, Queen of the Daves. Your perspective.
I watched the commercial because I don't watch the Super Bowl, but I heard there was some sort of fuss about a Coke commercial in the Super Bowl, and everyone was really angry. So I thought, well, there must be something to it. So I watched it, and it was a beautiful commercial. It was people singing "America is Beautiful" in a number of different languages, and I thought that it was a really beautiful commercial. And I was like, how the heck can this offend anyone? And then you see all the "Speak American" sort of thing. It's like all this xenophobic bullshit basically being spouted from what I would like to assume, but we all know what assumption does. But I'd like to assume that it's just a very vocal minority, but I'm not going to say that it is or not because fuck, I don't know. But God forbid you have any culture. Jeez. Like, I hope these people never go to the opera. Like, fuck you, seriously.
Yeah.
You can't stand that, your country song has been sung in the languages of people who live in your country. Oh my God, it's the apocalypse, the end of the American way. Ew. Go cry me a river.
I remember there's those memes with a shocked looking Keanu Reeves. They've got one of, you've seen it, haven't you? They've got one of those out there. Like, what if Coca-Cola made that commercial so that you could find out which of your friends are assholes?
I wouldn't be surprised.
But yeah, I mean, you can imagine how I, and actually a lot of my Latino friends, especially, in the case of Puerto Rico, in which case our ancestors and us, well, I guess our ancestors ultimately did, but our recent ancestors didn't migrate and become American citizens. We didn't move here. We've been Spanish-speaking for 500 years, and, then you have people, and, we've been American for a bit over 100 years now, and it wasn't our choice, America just came along, and now you have these people from the States, alienating us, saying that, if you don't speak English, you're not real Americans. Well, then, fuck, are you going to leave, It's not like we have a choice in the matter.
I think what's frightening about it is, I think partly because of what you just said, is that while you encounter nationalism, and you encounter it here, even in pervasive, subtle ways growing up at school, you might get racism like saying to someone, go back to your own country. I'm thinking in the playground, I'm thinking kids who just don't know any better, maybe they've picked it up from somewhere. But this kind of thing, this is where nationalism becomes supremacism, isn't it? This is where it becomes that their only point can be that they're some kind of, I almost want to say, master race. It's like they've got no claim.
The real Americans.
that we're the real Americans because we say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Daleks of the real world. Yeah, so it is rather shocking, but obviously being from another country, and I've not been to the US for over a decade, and it's a very big, very varied country you have there. Well, sorry, when I say you, I mean Queenie, I suppose, but it's a big place. But as we've established, Puerto Rico.
I think Cookie's just as American as I am. Jeez, don't be racist, Alex.
I didn't mean that.
In terms of citizenship,
I'm picking up.
In terms of. You. Sorry. It's just that from the complicated explanation at the beginning, obviously from an outsider point of view, Puerto Rico both it's the Schrodinger's cat of the US.
That's a perfect description. We are and are not America. Yes.
I've lost my train of thought now, but for fuck's sake, Spanish is probably more widely spoken in North America, and it's more spoken globally. It's one of the top, isn't it? Like the second or third biggest language in the world. Didn't Christopher Columbus speak Spanish?
Well, yeah. He was sailing for Spain. He was Italian by birth, but yeah, obviously, he would have spoken Spanish, and much of his crew. And a good portion of the people in the United States were kind of taken into the United States, like Puerto Rico, only earlier during the Mexican-American War. You know, there's a long, rich Latino history of people living in the region we now know as the United States, long before it was part of the United States, long before the United States existed. You know.
Mm.
So the fact that they were there longer, yet they're going to be called foreigners, is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's kind of like the image that comes to my mind, and this might even sound like, to my English ears and eyes, it's like the people typing those kinds of comments. I imagine trailers, and I imagine a particular. I also do actually kind of imagine, perhaps in the way it's written, that they're very young and haven't had much education. But am I right to say it's kind of snobbish of me to think trailer trash? But is there any value in that, or is that me just trying to separate and say, oh, it's those people over there, it's not these other nice people over here?
No, I think if you go to 4chan's poll page, you'll see quite a few people on the internet. There's quite a culture of white supremacists that are young and in college, or maybe college dropouts.
Right.
Unemployment, underemployment. Granted, it's the internet, and you can always wonder how sincerely they hold these positions. But, you know, these kinds of groups, people entertaining these ideas. And actually, it's typically younger people who tend to be more radical, going further to the left and right. Which, yeah, that's just how demographics have been working out lately. There are a lot of really great progressive young people, and then there are a lot of young people who swing the other way. And, you know, their ideas are... Over time, I'd imagine experience, their ideas develop more, and they encounter more experiences, and they, you know, become more moderate. But, yeah, either that or more discreet about their bigotry, which I think is usually what happens, you know, with the typical racist that we imagine.
Okay. Queen of the Daves. Would you say your experience would be like would you say like you've met these people in real life, and if so, do they just make you uncomfortable? Do you try and get away from them? Do you try and challenge them? Do you end up giving up?
You try to get people to think, and that's something I try to do generally as a thing. And the thing is, like, I know people like this because people like this are in my family, and it sucks when I think about it. I'm like, geez, why'd I have to get landed with these assholes, you know? But at the same time, it's like, when you see it from the perspective of you really know this person, like, they're great in other ways, but it's like, god damn, they're just a terrible racist, or like, maybe they're just a terrible xenophobe, or like, you know, it's sort of a thing where it's harder to pass judgment when the issue's closer to home. I'd say they're ignorant And they're scared of things that are different.
Mm. Yeah, in the way that in the UK there's quite... I suppose actually the UK and the US both have quite an Islamophobic culture, where it's sort of like the slightest little thing, and it's, oh, they're taking over, they're Islamifying us, and then you point out that Muslims are 4% of the British population, but, you know, what did facts have to do with anything?
Don't derail my argument with facts.
Yeah, so is this a peculiarly American type of racism, do you think? Or do you think that this is it's more or less the same problem wherever you go?
The thing is that I'd say that American anti-Latino racism kind of mirrors the UK anti-Muslim racism. That's not to say that that Islamophobia isn't the thing in the United States. I just think it's a closer parallel, because there's a long history of, first, the sort of anti-Catholic sentiments that started to build up when the Irish were first coming and taking our gerbs, and then eventually it was the rich Latino. Why do I call them rich? I don't know. The large and established Latino community in the southern states, and this sort of push of keeping areas that the United States wondering first it was Americanizing the areas that the U.S. won in the Mexican-American War, but then it's sort of like keeping them Americanized, despite, the immigration and whatnot. So there's that constant fear that we need to make English the official language of the United States, because if not, I guess... I don't know. I think that the United States has done well without an official language, but there's that fear, that they'd lose their culture to the peoples that they've conquered. Go figure.
That's like being a Christian to fight communism. It doesn't work.
Okay, and if anybody needs to be reminded that we have fucktards in the UK as well, I'll just get this story open actually, just so that I get the guy's name. There's actually, we have people in the UK who are too twattish to be in UKIP. Yes, David Sylvester was kicked out of the UK Independence Party. Now he wants gays to repent and has bizarrely voted for a town council motion against him. Well, never mind that fucktard. Basically, the man who's too much of a twat to be in the UK Independence Party has been claiming that England and Wales passing marriage equality is the cause of the floods we've been having, which presumably means that Scotland, as of this week, allows same-sex marriage as well, will be getting the floods. Maybe they'll move up there, or there'll be an expanse of floods. Now, obviously, I know that this kind of thing isn't so uncommon in some parts of the US. I don't know quite what this guy's deal is, that he's moved on from one kind of bigotry to another or something. I don't even know what the question is for people like this. It's just, if I ask, would it be fair of me to ask a question like, why do you think people like this exist? Could you go with that, Dave one?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Why do such people exist? Well, the thing is that when a man and a woman love each other very much, they communicate that love through something called sex, and the child is conceived. And, of course, these particular individuals are human beings upon the moment of conception, as opposed to normal people that, wait till they're born. And so that time in the womb is actually going to make them more and more reactionary. But, no, in all seriousness, this kind of conservatism... I don't know. I don't know what really causes it. Actually, when you're talking about this article, I just think, there needs to be a gay event of Boobquake. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that, when some Muslim preacher or whatever the equivalent is was talking about if women dressed immodestly, it'll cause more earthquakes and natural disasters. And so a bunch of people posted videos, showing cleavage and whatnot. There needs to be, like, a bunch of people just being totally gay with the raincoats and umbrellas. That would be awesome. But, yeah, as to why these segments emerge, well, obviously you have, traditional value. We've always had to balance the burden of progress, tradition, and I guess the third burden would be the environment. And, you have people pulling in different directions as long as people have different ideas. And as long as they're perpetuated, through social institutions like churches, you're always going to have people who will pull to the extreme.
See, I have to say, I'm completely up for the gay quake, but obviously I've only been half pulling my weight, and someone on Facebook actually asked me, like, if gay people cause, like, actual floods, do I, as a bisexual man, just cause, like, drizzle and puddles?
That's a good question.
Maybe you brought the snow to Wisconsin, or not Wisconsin, maybe you brought the snow to Montana.
Yeah, sorry about
Alex's bisexuality makes it snow in Montana.
I don't know.
God damn it, Alex. Why couldn't you just be a Puritan?
Or maybe bisexuals are doubly bad. Like, gay people just create a net increase in water. It causes a flood. But what a bisexual will do is cause a flood in one area and a drought in another. So it's a zero-sum gain in that regard.
Can I say, by this guy's logic, though, by this guy's logic, was Noah gay?
Well, Noah was the only one that wasn't gay.
Even all his kids were gay. They were all, like, gaying up the place, but God was like, I can't send him on the ark by himself. He'll never procreate that way.
Yeah. Noah's Ark is an interesting story that's mistold a lot. But, yeah.
Okay. Could you... it's a bit off topic, but could you possibly expand on that?
No, the idea that people were being wicked and Noah was, like, preaching to them, telling them to repent of their wickedness or a flood's coming and people mocking him. Yeah, that's not how it went down at all. It was a bit of a... At least the way it looks from the Old Testament, it was a misstep in heaven, apparently. A bunch of the sons of God went down and started fucking the daughters of men, and they had these children known as, like, the Nephilim or whatever, and there was, basically these half-breeds, it's sometimes translated giants. They may not have been physically larger, they may have been, but it says that they were like men of old, men of renown, men of power, so, God just did like a big oopsie. But it also talks about wickedness growing upon the face of the earth, or badness, which may or may not be humanity's fault, or if it's the fault of these Nephilim. But then God's like, Noah, I'm going to kill everyone. Get your family on an ark. There was no warning involved. God just said, you know what, you're the only person worth saving. And so that's how it went down. And while it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, the ark was afloat for at least 150 more days, 190 more days. I don't know. But then he was on the mountain for a good while before he left the ark. And I can understand why this part of the myth is omitted, because this is like a solid year where next to nothing happens. But yeah.
That's not what the Pastafarians say happened, mister. I have to tell you the story of Noah and the pirates now. You know why they call it the Great Flood? It's because the pirates scared that bitch ass so bad he wet his pants. And that's because Noah set out on his monstrosity, slapped together with, like, dirt and wood and maybe some sizable animals to, like, be middle support pieces or something. And he was driven by anger and talking seals, and he went to mess with the pirates. And they were not, and, they tried to be jovial and good-spirited about it. But then he started throwing pointy animals at the pirates. So they just couldn't have that. So they intimidated bejeebus out of him, and he wet his pants, and that's why they call it the Great Flood.
Okay.
Wow. You learn something every new. So I've had
Another tidbit of information about the biblical narrative that I just randomly remembered, because I was thinking about Noah wetting his pants. He actually found out about the flood 100 years prior to it happening. Noah was 500 when God sent the warning, and he was 600 when the flood started.
Right.
So, yeah, that's another little tidbit of information.
This story sounds less and less plausible the more I hear it.
And it wasn't just 2 of every animal. It was 7 of every clean animal and 2 of every unclean animal.
I had heard that. I think that was on QI, yeah.
But everyone just hears a 2 by 2, and yeah, Noah being 600. Why ever would they admit that? It just makes the story seem that much more credible. And he died at the ripe old age of 950. Abraham was still alive. Abraham was already born and alive at this point.
Don't some of them try to, explain it that, people lived to be nearly 1,000 in those days because they were purer or some shit like that?
Well, the Bible it draws a clear line. Actually, it happens with the whole sons of God knowing the daughters of men and the Nephilim being born. God's just looking at what's going on, and he feels, I guess, horrible about it. And he's like, man will just do wickedness. I need to cut their life down to 120 years. Which isn't our lifespan, but according to the Bible, that's what it is. It used to be, hundreds of years, but then he cut it down to 120 before the flood. And so everyone born before the flood actually lived for a considerable longer time. You have Shem, Noah's son. He lived to be 600, but I think Shem's son only lived to be I'm not sure if it was 100 and something or in his 70s. But the point is, after the flood, everyone born after the flood didn't live as long.
Can I just throw something out there?
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that we're all descended from Time Lords?
That would be awesome.
Well, would we all be Time Lords, or would it be like a Time Lord that had sex with a monkey?
I think that's definitely what happened.
God damn it, Doctor, why you gotta go have that monkey sex? I told you, no more monkey pussy for you, Doctor.
Wow, we have gone so far off topic. Well, no, we're talking about floods and gayness.
Can I just say, this is still better science than Ken Ham knows.
Oh, definitely. Jeez, by Ken Ham's logic, I could just pick up a Bible and be like, everything I say is true, because Bible.
I loved Bill Nye's statement that Ken Ham never really addressed. So what happened to the water? Where did it drain? If you're going to say that it drained in the Grand Canyon, why aren't there hundreds of these structures all over the world? And Ken Ham just completely ignored that point.
I need to watch this. I'm going to explain to people. I did start playing the Nye-Ham debate, and I actually did fall asleep, so I haven't seen... I think I heard the first half of it. But there's different kind of opinions on this. Some people saying that Nye completely trounced him because he brought the science. Some people saying that ultimately it gives publicity and credibility to people like Ham, who's going to make money and shit like that. But I take it obviously I know you've seen the whole thing, Dave 1. Did you see the whole thing, Dave 2? Queen of the Daves?
I saw the whole thing. I had to stop a few times and just take a break from all the Ken Hamness, but I saw the whole thing.
Okay, you took vomit breaks.
Yes. Projectile vomit breaks.
I was saved by a kind of special narcolepsy that you can get when in the presence of Ken Ham. So that was...
You have
lucky.
Ken Hamelepsy?
Exactly.
You fortunate bastard.
I know. It's true. So, as a general overview, Dave 1, what did you... what's your basic assessment of the debate?
Yeah, it seemed as though they were kind of speaking past each other. I think what Bill Nye probably should have done more of, which I think he did do successfully, is try to reach the audience at an emotional level, even if he can't get them to believe in evolution. I like those instances where he talks about legislation. It's like, this is why we need scientifically literate people. And, you know, a lot of times when people would ask, so what came before the Big Bang, you know, he would go on about mystery, and that's why it's exciting, and that's why we need to pursue it. Which, you know, I feel as though, if nothing else, it just excites people about science, and that's what Bill Nye did for me. You know, I loved his TV show, and it made science exciting. It made it, you know, like this thing to be pursued, and I think that's his strong point. In terms of the actual debate, you know, it's like arguing with someone who's speaking a different language. You know, it didn't really produce a whole lot. Yeah, some people say that Bill Nye completely trounced him, but it just seemed as though they were speaking past each other, and I think a lot of times Bill Nye wanted to address Ken Ham directly, and likewise Ken Ham wanted to address Bill Nye directly, but the format of the debate wasn't really it wasn't really structured in that way. So, you know, that might be a fault in the structure. But I just remember seeing this Twitter post that made me laugh, that it said that the debate began with Bill Nye pulling out his boner of science and bending Ken Ham over, and he says, now consider the following, which I don't know if you're familiar with the show, but that was a segment, consider the following. But yeah. I love Bill Nye, and I think that he was best when he did what he does, which was make science sound awesome.
Bill Nye makes me want to be a scientist, let me tell you. Because, I mean, everybody wants to, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but I get the general impression that, you know, there's this general wondering, like, where did we come from? You know, where are we going? This sort of thing. And Ken Ham kept trying to say, oh, well, we can't know the past. And I think Bill Nye should have gone into it a bit more, but he said, oh, you know, you might be at home watching a CSI or like a crime scene investigator show. And they piece together what happened in the past based on the evidence that they collect.
Hello.
Hey.
Oh, hello. Right, you've joined us for the final segment. We've moved on to the Ken Ham, the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate. And Queenie was just talking about the part where Ken Ham talked about CSI. But I will just introduce. We now have Catie with us as well. But I will explain though. It's Call Everybody Dave Day. So we now have a third Dave who's called Catie.
So we have Dave 1, Dave 1 me. We have Queen Dave, and then Dave 3.
Dave Strider.
Dave Strider. Woo.
And, yes, so, I did see the first half, before I fell asleep, of the Ken Ham debate. So, Queenie, you were just talking about the bit where Ken Ham Bill Nye used
the CSI reference in how we can piece together things that happened in the past without having had to have been there. Ken Ham was like, you weren't there, you didn't see it, how could you possibly know? And if that's the case, if that were really the case, then there would be no way for us to enforce the law unless a police officer was there for every fucking piece of every crime ever.
That is a good point. Haven't we been piecing together the past from evidence for centuries, like the counting the number of rings when you cut a tree down?
And these are things that Bill Nye brought up, and these are things that Ken Ham said, oh, but you weren't there, you can't know. Bible.
Yeah, to say that the tree rings is an assumption is like saying, oh, you're assuming those letters in the Bible mean the same thing that they mean for us, you know, that the English words carry the same meaning. You don't know what King James spoke. You know?
That's another very good point. Actually, can I also say, and you're going to think I'm psychic, right? But Dave, and Dave, right? Each of your parents has had sex.
No.
Oh, that's blasphemous heathenry right there. I have to
what if I told you I happen to be Jesus?
Well, I can't prove you're not.
Exactly.
Oh, my.
There is, of course, a tiny statistical chance that one of you may have been a test tube baby. It's just unlikely. But
It wasn't me. Let me hide this scientific equipment behind the curtain.
Exactly. And so, Queen of the Daves, did you have any other comments about the I can never say that, the Nye/Ham debate?
It was... I felt so bad that Bill Nye was basically having to put up with this guy whose his every answer was the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. God done it, God said it, God did it, blah, 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 blah. And that's why I had to take so many breaks, because it's like, God damn, Ken Ham, shut up. You're being an idiot.
Yep, basically. Catie, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us, I don't know, something about yourself and when you last checked your privilege?
I've never checked my privilege. I'm underprivileged.
Oh, okay. Anything else?
I am Dave Strider.
You are Dave Strider. Okay, so we now have Dave 1, Queen of the Daves, and Dave Strider. And Dave Strider, have you seen the Nye versus Ham debate?
I think I saw the first few minutes, but my internet connection was so shitty that I didn't continue to watch it. And I pretty much figured that I had heard everything that they were already going to say, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I fell asleep in the first half and had similar feelings. So, okay. Do you have a general opinion on either of those two people or that type of debate?
I guess I like Bill Nye, and I know pretty much nothing about Ken Ham, other than he was the founder of the Creationist Museum, which is good enough reason for me not to care about who he is.
Didn't that museum fail?
No.
It's still around, unfortunately.
There was something, yeah.
No,
I went to that museum, and I suffered many facepalm injuries.
Oh, God. You have my sympathies.
I was gonna say, there are unintended consequences of not so much the debate itself, but the publicity around the debate. And, actually, this is a discussion from earlier, did it do any good? It just occurred to me, Pat Robinson actually said that Ken Ham is making Christianity into a joke by standing by this whole "the earth is 6,000 years old" bit. So, here we have a Christian making a public statement against another Christian. And, so in that case, I'd say that, sending the message that, creationism isn't scientific, even freaking Pat Robertson gets it, who's probably one of the biggest evangelical assholes out there. The point is it got a lot of people to see this and think about it, and then you have credible people that they view as credible. Pat Robertson is incredible, but a lot of these fundamentalist Christians are, they might follow Pat Robinson's he says that creationism isn't true, so maybe this Bill Nye guy makes some sense. Or a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have thought about it think about it now. And so the publicity around the debate, if anything, probably did some good, even if the debate itself didn't.
It's divided the theatards, and basically, yeah. I was wondering actually, is he actually a biblical literalist, young Earth creationist? And so his museum is talking about dinosaurs 6,000 years ago and shit like that.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So. Yeah, the idea of somebody like that being taken... but you don't feel that there was a danger of him being given credibility by being granted the debate. You feel very much he's made a fool of them all just by virtue of being an actual new earther, biblical literalist fucktard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is that alternate effect of the people who were creationists, becoming more entrenched because they see opposition. And so, it always has that sort of polarizing effect. But I'd like to think, and this is the optimist in me, that it's helped more people consider evolution than creationism. I suppose, on the one hand, it's why let this group, why give them the respect that they don't deserve by debating them as an equal, but at the same time, you know, people need to know that this discussion is happening. A lot of people just go with the flow and don't even think about these matters.
A lot of people think, when it comes to some of these people, that they're just trying to make money selling books and DVDs, telling people comforting things that they want to know, and they don't necessarily believe the shit themselves. Do you think Ken Ham is a cynical profiteer laughing at everyone, or do you think he genuinely believes every word of his own bullshit?
He definitely lies sometimes. That is absolute. I'm absolutely sure about, because there have been times that he's been
Poe's law, man. Poe's law.
Yeah, Poe's law. You know, I don't know how sincere his belief is, but you know, sometimes he will misrepresent facts to make his own message seem more credible. So I wouldn't put it past him to be lying about a lot of stuff.
But you think he's definitely consciously misrepresenting facts, or do you think he's one of the ones that's really capable of serious cognitive dissonance?
Yeah, there's one statement that I don't see any other way than, like, he talks about, he mentions, okay, so when evolutionists talk about light years, it's a measure of distance, not time. So when they say that a star is a certain amount of light years away, it's not that it takes all these years to get here, just that it's really, really far away. There's no way he could have heard of the concept without understanding the issue of young Earth creationism. So, you know, he either has a rather interesting mind whose thought processes are beyond what any of us can perceive, or he is deliberately sort of misrepresenting the facts.
Okay. And there's definitely an element. Oh, I have a red box, so I hope people can still hear me.
I can hear you.
And still says it's recording. So yeah, and there's an element of profiteering. I mean, you tell people what they want to hear, you'll make money, right?
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to make money. I don't know. Because I mean, I'm sure wanting his message to seem legitimate is also another reason why he would lie. But money is probably a big factor as well. Yes.
There was, I think, a question raised in the debate. I think something that was sort of implicitly raised in things that Bill Nye was saying is so many Christians are cool with evolution and the old Earth, and it doesn't touch their faith and they're fine. Why does it matter so much to these people? Does anybody have an opinion on that? Because there are no creationists here where I live. We just don't have them. So I don't get it. Like, I was an adult before I knew these people really still existed.
No, forgive me for invoking Godwin's law, but I'm thinking about the ice universe theory that was, like, the most absurd idea ever, that the entire universe is made out of ice and the sun is a big ball of ice. But people would go behind it just when compared to the model of relativity, which everyone deemed Jew science. And so when people are talking about, like, the academics and the intellectuals and this mass conspiracy against God, then a lot of times they'll just reject it on the virtue of the fact that, you know, it's academic. You know, the same way that you would reject relativity on the grounds that Einstein was a Jew.
Right. Okay. Queen of the Daves, any thoughts?
Basically, yeah, like, people will do what makes them more comfortable, I guess. Like, some people genuinely don't care about the truth. Like Ken Ham basically said, you could prove him wrong and he still wouldn't accept it. Like, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Like, let's say you got a time machine and took him back in time and showed him all of these things. He would still choose to be a creationist because, for whatever reason, that is the thing that makes him comfortable.
So it's all about these people sticking in their comfort zone, a bit like we were saying earlier with the vile homophobes.
My mom is a creationist, and this is something that I've talked to her about. And the thing is, she told, like, she basically, and I gave up trying to, like, convince her of the whole argument for atheism or whatever the hell you want to call it. You know, I stopped basically having these religious debates with her because she's so emotionally invested in the idea of a young earth and, you know, everything that goes along with it, the whole Christianity, afterlife, all of that. And it all seems to be so closely tied together. She's so emotionally invested in it that I don't think I could convince her otherwise without causing some sort of severe emotional damage, which just isn't something I want to do to my mother.
But in her case, you don't think it's necessarily harmful?
Well, I think that as an intelligent woman, I wouldn't have expected her to believe those sorts of things, but...
But she's not hurting anybody, doesn't hurt her, so let it lie.
Well, it's not like she's a teacher or like she's using that opinion in a position of authority or anything, so...
Okay. I can see that. Okay, and just to explain to people that we have been periodically losing Catie, who will have made a cameo appearance in this edition. And I think it's about time to wrap things up, and I'm just basically going to, if we all go alphabetically, starting with me, because I'm Alex, saying one thing about the year so far. In the future, it'll be the week that's just gone by. This is the first show of the year, so... the Call Everybody Dave thing was in honour of the late, great Roger Lloyd Pack, most famous as Trigger in Only Fools and Horses. He did other sitcoms like Vicar of Dibley. He actually did do films. He is in Harry Potter, but I can't remember who he played in Harry Potter. But Roger Lloyd Pack was the name of the actor, and to call people who aren't called Dave, Dave was a thing of his. And I forget how old he would have been, but it would have been his birthday today if he hadn't died a couple of weeks ago. So that's my thing from this year so far. And going alphabetically, Catie or Dave?
So at my grocery store, we do this thing like on top of sales, where if you buy a certain number of those things, you also get, you know, another discount on top of that. And we were doing the sale for cans of Monster, and when you bought one and used your Plus savings card or whatever, you got it for like $1.49. And when you bought 6 of them, you got 50 cents off of that, and you only bought it for 99 cents or something. So this lady gets 48 of them, and she gives it to me, and our receipts are a little difficult to read sometimes if you are going ahead of yourself. So it reads more like you have the 48 cans of Monster, and then it tells you that it takes off a certain amount for your savings, and then it lists like every single saving that you made because you bought 6 of them or more. And she says, those are supposed to be 50 cents. I think she was trying to say that it was supposed to take off 50 cents, and they were already 99 cents. And she was wrong. She didn't know how to read it. It was very frustrating.
Aha. And Koki, thoughts from the year so far?
Well, I guess what's had the most impact on the year so far was Bill Gates, talking about his charity, and child deaths actually have hit an all-time low, at least as long as we've been recording how many children die, even when the population was considerably smaller. there were still more children dying. And Bill Gates, just in his statement, was talking about how, as charities going to these developing nations are actually starting to decline, which sort of dispels the myth that helping these nations just creates a population crisis. And so, I think I think it was January that Bill Gates started, actually talking about helping the poor. He, for a good portion of time, was the richest man in the world, now giving so much to charity. It just makes me feel so optimistic about humanity and where we're going. And, I'm hearing a lot of great stuff about what we're going to do in terms of, the European Space Agency and the Japanese space program doing missions to asteroids, and I'm just really excited about this year.
Oh, okay. That's cool. And that started off quite dark. And then it went from an anecdote to something quite dark, but it ended up sounding quite optimistic. So,
children deaths hitting an all-time low. That's awesome.
Well, yes, all right, yes. I suppose the subject is a slightly
Children death.
Children death is what people hear.
Fewer children dying.
Fewer children.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Queenie, your thing for this year so far?
My life sounds so uneventful compared to everybody else's. I got a Knights of Columbus cloak thingy from Goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Oh, I thought you were going to describe it.
Oh, it's a black cloak thing, and it's got a pocket on the inside that's really cool. And it's got these, lion head clasp thingy on it.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay, you need to take a photo and put it on Facebook or have it in one of your videos.
I should. It's going to be the starting piece in my ultimate efforts to look like some sort of medieval peasant or something.
Uh-huh. Okie dokie. So, you've all been wonderful guests, and shame we didn't hear more from you, Catie, but maybe some future edition.
Well, you had it going when I was still at work, so,
Ah, okay, we obviously didn't translate the time difference, but I can do it later. This was 9 p.m. GMT, and I guess the US has all these different time zones, but it can be 10 GMT or whatever. Well, the show's called London After Midnight, but that's because it goes out after. But anyway.
Stop making excuses, darling.
It's midnight somewhere.
You're lying to our viewers.
Making excuses for everything. How dare he?
Exactly. So, but yes, you've been very good guests. I was slightly worried that there wouldn't be enough guests, but I thought that it flowed very well. And each of you are welcome back on anytime in the future. And so if we each go around, I can't think of a clever way of saying goodbye. So, dinosaur, grr. And we'll go alphabetically again. So, Dave, who is called Catie.
Dave, who is... What?
Well, you're all called Dave, but you're Catie. You're Dave. I forget you. You're Dave.
Strider.
Right. Okay. I don't know who that is.
Clearly, I am not Dave Strider. I am Cthulhu. Clearly.
Dave Cthulhu. What do you have?
Dave Cthulhu Strider Catie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my full name.
And your sign off.
Yes.
Say goodbye.
Much goodbye. Such farewell. So long. Wait.
And
wow.
And Dave 1, a.k.a. Koki.
Or Dave Prime. I like that better than Dave 1, actually.
Okay,
I am Dave Prime.
Dave Prime should be kind of, superhero or detective or spy. Dave Prime is the name. Dave Prime.
But yes, may the hamster of prosperity rest upon your heads, everyone.
No!
And the last but by no means least, the Queen of the Daves.
So long, farewell, la vida, and good night.
I was gonna do that, but I decided that singing was gonna be cliche.
Great minds think alike, except for I think you made a much better save than I did, because I was just like, fuck, I don't have a way to say goodbye. I should just think something from an old movie.
Okay, so that'll be it then. Until next time, YouTube. Till next time, everyone.